welcome back, everybody. We have a couple of fantastic panels to round out the rest of today. And the first one, we have three gentlemen who are going to come up and talk about what I will say students in my class find fascinating. You know, once you find the deposit, once you drill it out, once you know its shape, once you get the green light, how do you physically disaggregate it, get it out of the ground, and process that material to produce the end product? So it's my pleasure to welcome three gentlemen to come to the stage. Adrian Dance of SRK Consulting, Joe Kalkus of Capstone, and Mike Kotraba of Dyno Noble, sorry.
You got it. I'll take middle seat.
All right, thank you. Well, welcome, guys. Nice to have you here.
Good to be the last.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Second to last.
Oh, wow. Soccer's
But that doesn't mean we save the best for last. So when we think about drilling and blasting, and we think about the data that you use to optimize drilling and blasting on a particular site, what would you say have been the biggest innovations in your career in that space?
Who are you asking?
Any of you can take that first question, please.
Go ahead, Mike.
I think one of the biggest innovations, having been in the business for over 25 years, is using two things. Using the measure-wide drilling data, being able to custom load a blast hole with whatever explosive recipe you want to put in it to target the hardness in the hole. I think that's groundbreaking technology. That's sort of a pun, by the way. And then I think along with that is that technology that also allows you to be able to do that in the blast hole itself. Not only the measure while drilling data, but to be able to custom load every blast hole on a pattern to fit the geology that you're trying to extract the mineralization from.
So Adrian, what have you seen in your career?
Well, I may be unique here. I'm the processing guy. I'm the person who receives the material. And since the 1970 or so, the plants have gotten larger and larger in size, capacity. And that's meant a limit to how we used to grind material. And we've gone to mills now that are called autogenous, which means we use the rock to break itself. As a result, the size that Mike and Joe send determines how fast it can go through the plant. So the sensitivity of plant production to the size of the material is enhanced because of the type of equipment we use now. And over the last 20 or 30 years, we've really honed in on a methodology to understand how the size will completely affect throughput and how you can get savings of energy of 20 or 30%.
Wow.
So you can do the same job 20 or 30% cheaper. I worked at a large copper mine in British Columbia, as there are a few, and we ended up getting 30% more throughput for no cost.
Wow.
So you become a bit of a, what's the word? You become quite religious about the whole experience because the benefits you see are so dramatic. It's quite encouraging and very exciting. As an engineer, to get these improvements is very good.
So Joe, as an operator, what have you seen?
I think being able to score yourself through digital imagery. We have a camera on our belt off the primary, being able to measure the fines we're getting out of the blast in a simpler, quicker turnaround than rather having to do belt cuts and process that through through the sampling department. Once you do the hard work of the belt cuts and you get your calibrations right, then it's a weekly conversation of how are we doing on our fines to the mill.
So we've heard a lot today about innovation technology. And we know in the mining industry that more and more and more data are being produced. And one of the challenges is how to use that data. So when you look across the industry, Adrian, and you think about optimizing operations for one project relative to optimizing one particular set of solutions for a range of sites, can you talk a bit about the trade-offs there? You know, do you take a particular mine and optimize that mine and then start from scratch at the next mine? Or do you come up with a sort of single solution that should work well at all mines and then optimize as time goes by?
I think it makes sense to do the latter. It's much less work. Unfortunately, the human side of the situation makes it very messy. When you go to an operation that's been operating for 20 or 30 years, everybody's very vested in their way they operate. They believe or they know what's important and what's not. And I don't think they want it trivialized by saying, I'm going to use this stock standard solution and apply it to you, because everybody in this workplace feels it's a unique environment. So you have to really listen to that, because of course, participation and support is the most important thing for applying non-technical innovations. It's not a widget, it's a way of doing things. And for people to adopt that, they have to really embrace it. So the change management side is big. To answer your question, every place has to be treated as a unique operation, and consequently that slows down the process. I know, and I can tell the world, that if everybody followed these rules, they would benefit. But we need to go through this process for people to get the buy-in they need.
So how do you change that culture from one site to another, one company to another? You know, you hear a lot of, this is the way we did it.
I guess, you know, talk about pace of change. I remember in the late 90s when I started doing this, I'd go into the mine and the person in charge of blasting ordered me off the property because I shouldn't even be in talking to him about fragmentation. To a point now where we go, oh, of course, we know fragmentation is important. I think we all hoped that as people move between operations, they would carry that knowledge and they'd carry that understanding, but it probably hasn't permeated as quickly as we'd like. I think fundamentally, we were talking before about the idea of having built into the operation before it even starts that these improvements are possible and having them being done. There's another capstone operation that's starting up soon, and they're already talking about fragmentation and how it can improve things. So that will help because there's less to overcome in terms of preconceived ideas.
So Joe, can you unpack what we mean when we talk about mine-to-mill operations and what innovations you've seen and where you think the industry is going to move in the next 5-10 years?
Mine to mill is about, to me, spending your money in the most effective way to get fragmentation instead of grinding through a mill using the chemical energy, blast it, so your downstream processes flow, whether it's digging and loading, and proper fragmentation makes life easier all the way down the chain. I would hope that in the future there would be more standardized processes in place instead of new learning all the time. We've relearned quite a few things through different vendors we've worked with, and it's been hard to, and I don't know if that's across the industry. We'll see more of those standards because everybody's kind of got their flavor, but through within a company, if we can establish a standard and continue that through and do less relearning, less second time arounds, that would be nice if we could get there in the future.
So Mike, what have you experienced when we think about mine-to-mill operations and innovation and how data are being used in real time?
So I think more and more people are going to start wanting to move away, and I hope this is true, wanting to move away from lagging indicators to leading indicators. We have so much data right now, and it's pretty quick to gather. that I think the ability of operations to be able to make changes on the fly while they're mining, during that shift, during that hour, during that minute, if you see something wrong, you can correct it instead of tomorrow morning going to the meeting and saying, we didn't hit our production, why didn't we hit our production? And that day is gone. So I think I see people moving towards leading indicators because the data is so quick to be gathered that I think that's a big piece that I see coming down the road.
What are the hurdles to making those changes faster?
Having people that know what they're looking for, having the key things at your operation that you think are important or that you know are important. I mean, another big thing that I think Joe touched on is mines need to have a different mentality when they get the permit and they start mining. They need to have a different mentality about what's important. It's not just the mine, it's not just drill and blast, it's not just load and haul, it's the value that drilling and blasting adds throughout the entire value chain that you're after. At the end of the day, you're trying to sell a product on the market. Yeah, your cost per ton is important, but at the end of the day, when you go to the P&L statement, you're going to look at cost per ounce, cost per pound, and getting all of those departments aligned with that goal in mind, that this is a value stream. It doesn't stop here, it doesn't stop here, it doesn't stop here at each silo. It runs through the whole process, and that's what you're after at the end. And I think that's the challenge I've seen. We've done drill-to-mill programs for several different mines, and we get process people, we get crusher people, we get mine people, we get drilling and blast people all involved, and they're all on the same page until it comes time to spend money. And then all of a sudden the drilling and blasting guy goes, you're not driving up my costs. My STI goals, my bonus is based on that. You're not going to touch my budget. And so to one of the questions you asked earlier, I think one of the most important things if you're going to try to do a drill to mill and make it sustainable is you have to have buy-in from the top. You have to have the general manager say, this is what we're doing. Yeah, we got to be smart about how we spend money, but this is where we're going. This is a value stream. This isn't just your department. And I've had that happen. That exact scenario happened. We proposed some changes to drilling and blasting. The mining guys said, no way. You're not touching my budget. We're not paying for it. And the general manager came down, walked through the hallway and said, you're doing everything they told you to do, and I don't want to hear any more about it. And to the tune of, I can't give the number, XX million dollars over a year was added in value to that operation through increased throughput.
So one of the things that's been missing, just to add to what Mike's saying,
please,
is that in the mine and the mill, the mine is truly a cost center. All its job in its mine is to spend as little money as possible to achieve that material throughput, fill the stockpiles. The plant is a cost center and a profit center, so they can see the balance. They can see that if they spend money on a reagent or they spend money on something, they can make a better product and they get more money. So it's very easy to justify things in the plant. It's very difficult to justify things in the mine when your job is to not spend money. So what's missing is, and I've said this over many years, is really a contract between the plant and the mine to say, we will pay you for the material you send. We will penalize you and we will give you a bonus if you follow these things. But because the plant doesn't know what it wants, and because the mine generally doesn't know how to deliver it besides ore, that contract is very murky. But if you could drop a contract, you wouldn't have to justify that at all. The mine would do it in a second because they could see the benefit. But because there's no contract, their focus is on minimizing cost.
So are there any common low-hanging fruit among mining operations that you could give us as examples when you talk about saving energy by 20%, 30%?
I would go to any operation and get 10% more throughput.
It's
just by stabilizing and improving practices.
Go,
it's
Joe,
super,
how do we do
it's
that?
super boring work. The low-hanging fruit is just doing the same thing, best practices every day in and out, quality drill holes, quality blasting products, good pattern design, and it's boring. But that's the low-hanging fruit. I'd say I see and hear about every day.
So what are the tools you have at your disposal to improve and optimize? And what are the tools that you would like to have?
I would like to have better seismic data, easier to obtain seismic data so we can optimize the blast timing and know what we're doing to our final walls. I haven't dug into it, but a convenient solution to that to where it's can be done daily with little to no effort would be really nice.
I'd like to be able to know what the fragmentation is down to the -1/2 inch size at the face. Currently that technology is not quite there yet. Split technology will get you down to probably 2 inches, 2.5 or 1.5 inches. But to know what the fragmentation is at the face would be immediate feedback for the blaster for the next shot, instead of waiting for it to get all the way through the processing circuit to the camera or through some other kind of measuring mechanism.
And do you think that innovation is there in the next 5, 10 years?
Well, we have to ask the Hexagon folks. I'm hoping it is.
So one of the challenges that you must face, or that the industry must face, is retrofitting old to new. Do one of you want to comment on that? Bringing new technology to a mine that has a particular set of equipment or operating practices.
Just a quick comment. I see a lot of technology providers say, you must need more data, and we will give you data, and with all that data, you must roll around in it like money on your bed. You'd be so excited. And that doesn't happen, because Joe's already overwhelmed with data, and he's also overwhelmed with all the other things he has to do. So consequently, more data is not necessarily helpful unless there's something that can be done with it. And we talked about this before, I think Don was saying this before, is that we are really starved with solutions for data. And fundamentally, the mine is such a simple process where ore goes to the mill, waste doesn't. If the data tells you something that it's not quite ore or waste or it's something different, there's nowhere to put it. You can't just leave it, and you can't stockpile it. So you're really constrained about what decisions you can make with this data if you find something interesting. And that's where fundamentally retrofitting into an existing operation, and the longer that it's run, the more there's going to be potential resistance. But that's where you have such a pushback that the practitioners are providing numbers and saying, these are really accurate numbers and we work so hard about measuring them, you must be thrilled to have this. And the operators are just like, well, no, because one, I don't need more numbers, I need less, and two, I don't know what to do with it. So that's a challenge.
So I think I heard somebody use the term boring. Joe, what are your challenges recruiting talent and keeping them?
I'd say it's challenges. It's one of the biggest ones we have. It's tough. I think the base that we had of experienced miners, say 15, 20 years ago, isn't there anymore. We're plucking kids out of school, kids that haven't been in a mine before, training them to operate equipment, teaching engineers about how we do business, how we do the work we do. It's a really challenge, and I think we have a pretty optimal workplace in that we can, you live an hour from the valley, you don't have to do camp life. I think compensation's great. To be honest, we had a guy that was making $32 an hour leave for a job that delivering flowers for $20 an hour. Wasn't shift work, but was just something he'd rather do with his time. So it's a huge challenge, and mining's, when I was younger, it was once you lock that down, you're good, and just doesn't seem like that's the case anymore.
So is that an issue of culture that you feel needs to change, or packaging that and attracting people who right now aren't aware of positions in the mining industry? Both?
Values. you know, 20 years ago, we valued different things from our employer. Maybe that's changed with how today's culture values things. Shift work isn't fun, I'll just be honest.
All right, well, thank you very much, Adrian, Joe, and Mike. We appreciate you taking the time to join us this afternoon for the second to last panel.
Yeah.